diferente que un carro regular, pero despacito. No, 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 americano.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah. Let's go ahead and get started. We begin in the name of Allah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. I pray everyone is doing great. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our Friday Coffee with the Shaykh Open QA session. Just extending just some well wishes for those 49er fans. Go Chiefs. Nobody laughed like that, two people. I'm just kidding, man. How many Niner fans? Nobody's raising your hand now, huh? The other day, everybody's hands are up, huh? Allah reward you all. Thank you all very much for accepting the invitation. Of course, for those of you, if this is your first time around for this session, or if you're online for the first time, this is our open QA session specifically. We like to have it for our brothers and sisters that are new to Islam, that have reverted to Islam, or they're on the journey to learn more about Islam. Of course, the whole community is welcome to come, but we want to make sure that we have this session weekly for our brothers and sisters that are new to Islam. We are blessed in this community, and I would say by extension, many communities nationwide, so many people embracing Islam. But I think the very important thing to understand for all of us is that support system the day after, right? To make sure that we're there for our brothers and sisters. So thank you all very much for accepting the invitation. Again, just a friendly reminder, we have hot dogs, halal hot dogs here. We have nice sandwiches, snacks, nice condiments there, all that good stuff. We have coffee, tea in the back. So if you haven't as of yet grabbed your food, please make sure to do so. And please enjoy yourself. With us, of course, is no stranger to our community, specifically for our classes. It's Shaykh Tarik. Did you go for Umrah? Okay. He had a little buzz here, mashallah. Me and him were comparing, but he's the more handsome one here, in terms of it it looks better, mashallah, on him. Shaykh Tarik Ata. Shaykh Tarik, of course, is a religious director of OCIF, Orange County Islamic Foundation, in Mission Viejo. So if you haven't, how many of you have visited OCIF? Just I like to always check in with different speakers that come in. Mission Viejo. Okay, so 1, 2. How about from our new Muslim revert family? Anybody visit OCIF? Nobody? Okay. So please make sure if you're in the South County, you're in that area or traveling somewhere, make sure to stop by Shaykh Tarik and OCIF and see his wonderful community there. You have the Salam Lounge, right? It's really nice, the Salam Lounge. Coffee, tea. Commercial coffee machine. So does it beat out our chai or? It is. Oh, okay, inshallah. Well, we might have to tap into what Shaykh Tarik has over there. But again, we want to make sure that we visit the different communities. So if you're in OCIF, please make sure to visit that area over there, and Shaykh Tarik as well. Shaykh Tarik is doing a number of things. Of course, he's on the board of the Shura Council of Southern California, umbrella organization for many of the mosques and organizations in SoCal. He, of course, has been in the trenches. And I say that because we're blessed to have so many of our imams, community leaders, scholars that are with us in the trenches, helping us in this journey. And Shaykh Tarik is one of those that's been with us for a number of years now, helping us through this journey. So we thank him very much for this. We're going to start off with a short reminder for a few minutes, as we do, 2-3 minutes or so. And then we're going to get over to the questions. I'm going to come around with the microphone. So if you have a question, simply raise your hand. And I'll bring the mic to you. Feel free to ask your question. Or if you want to ask on behalf of someone, then also anybody online, you can drop your question in the comments section as well. Shaykh Tarik, is always a privilege and honor to have you. Thank you for sacrificing. I know it's a drive in traffic, and you probably have to get back to your community for your Friday night programming. We also have Shaykh Tarik on Sunday as well for our Islam 101 class. So a double shot of Shaykh Tarik. Keep it halal, huh? Double shot. 2 times in 1 week, inshallah. Shaykh Tarik, the floor is all yours. Thank you. You know it, baby. Go Chiefs.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. We begin by praising God, and we ask Him to send His peace and blessings upon the last and final messenger. The reminder for myself and you all is that the Prophet, peace be upon him, teaches us that it is a part of faith, it is part of belief that we stay away and we run away from the areas and the places and the environments that can pose a threat to our iman. Specifically, that which is enticing, right? The actions, the areas, the environments that will entice us to do that which is displeasing to God. And so somebody who truly values something will protect that thing from the places or the people that can harm that individual. And so anybody who has a child, as the child grows and starts to build friendships, the parents are quite keen on knowing who the child's friends are, for the purpose of making sure that those around him or her aren't going to harm him or her one way or the other. Similarly, it is part of Iman, it is part of good Islamic etiquettes that we stay away from the people and the places that can pose a threat to our Iman. Right? Now, of course, there are sometimes scenarios where we have to deal with certain realities. Right? In those moments, we see God's assistance and His protection, and we do what we need to do. But for things that, it's really not our role, not our place, or that environment is stronger than we are, it is part of faith to withdraw from that and stay away from it. So that's a reminder for myself and you all. Now the floor is all yours.
All right, Shaykh Tarik, thank you so much. Appreciate it. As I come around, feel free to raise your hands. We have if I could take one question here online, yeah, Sheikh, from our dear brother Tom. Assalamu alaikum. I have a question for tonight's session. Do you break your wudu, the wash up, before prayer when changing your baby's diapers?
No. So changing babies, I know because I have an infant. So changing
4
babies'
months, right?
diapers. 4 months, alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Sheikh, just for those of you, if you don't know, Shaykh Tarik and his wife were blessed to have young Ayana, right?
Yes.
Ayana, 4 months old so far, alhamdulillah. So may Allah reward you and bless you and make her of the righteous, inshallah.
Yeah, so changing a baby's diaper does not break wudu. Holding a baby while the baby's diaper is soiled does not invalidate your prayer. So you can pray while holding the child, even though the child might be bearing some impurities in his or her diaper. So anytime an impurity falls on the body, that does not break wudu. You do need to wash it off, but it doesn't break wudu.
So in that case, Sheikh, if you don't wash it off, if it doesn't break your wudu, but you're supposed to wash it off, if you're praying and there's some leakage from that diaper,
if it's a small amount, you're fine. We can ignore it, right? But unless you like putting your hands, you're really getting into it, you should be fine, inshallah.
Perfect. Just wanted to clarify. All right, Bismillah. Questions, brothers and sisters? Simply raise your hand. I'll come around with the mic.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
So I've been trying to memorize Quran little by little, and I am reciting in the car on the way to work and on the way back. And I noticed that sometimes I forget some words in the recitation. Sometimes I feel like I'm adding some random words. And I guess my question is that is that a bad thing, that to like add some extra words that doesn't fit in there, not on purpose, but during the memorization?
No, that's normal. Even if you have been reciting the Quran and you memorized it for several years, you're bound to make mistakes. So no matter how experienced you are with the Quran, you're bound to make mistakes. Right? I mean, there are some times where even the most world-renowned reciters of the Quran make mistakes in the most commonly recited verses. So it happens. You don't be disheartened by it. It's normal, but do your best to make sure that you go back and see what the correct way of reciting it is, or the correct words are. So that's very normal.
Thank you. And I have a really weird question. It just came to my mind some time ago. I don't know, as Muslims, people sing in the shower, but as non-Muslims, we some people sing in the shower. So the question is that can you recite Quran in the shower?
We're gonna say no because it's a bathroom, right? So, out of etiquettes and respect to God, we don't say His name or His words in the bathroom, right? Unless you have a really big bathroom where the bathing area is kind of separate from the toilet area. But like most other bathrooms, it's in the same area. So we're gonna say don't recite the Quran.
Okay, so what if it's like just a shower room with no bathroom?
With what?
What if it's like a shower room without no toilet?
Then it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
All right, questions? Yes.
I just have a quick question. A quick question about giving gifts for Ramadan. What's acceptable to give, and how many people are you supposed to give to?
Gifts?
Gifts, yeah.
Like
Exchanging gifts or just giving somebody gifts for Ramadan?
whatever you want.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I know we have a few hands. I want to give preference first to our brothers and sisters that are new to Islam or on the journey to Islam. If not, then we can move over to our mentors and community members. Okay, so we'll go with Rafael, Francisco, and Sergio.
Assalamu
Alaikum
alaikum.
salam.
So, I rent a room in a penthouse with plenty of other people, and my space is limited sometimes because I'll have family members over, like my little brother or little sister in my room. They live real close by, so I was wondering. For prayers, is it permissible to pray with somebody else in the room?
Yes. Yeah.
And
You can have as many people as you want in the rooms. It doesn't make a difference.
oh, thank you for that. And another question: if is it permissible to pray at a kind of like in a yard where where it's out of my control to even keep it remotely clean, but I'll broom it, and I'll do everything I can to keep it clean. Will it still be permissible to pray?
Yeah, I mean, so long as there isn't any, feces or urine there or alcohol, you'll be fine.
Okay.
So dirt, dust, grass, it's fine.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Alaikum salam.
So I was listening to you in the beginning, and
Mm.
I do feel like sometimes just living in this world, being here in the ordinary life, you're exposed to like all these sins, temptations, and sometimes when I think back about like prophets, I do recall that a lot of them would isolate themselves. So I'm wondering if there's any reward to that, or if there's any goodness in trying to do something like that.
Mm. Actually, on the contrary, prophets didn't isolate themselves. Prophets were in the center of society, right? What I meant by what I was saying, you don't go to the club. Right? You don't go for the guys, you don't go to the beach just to chill in prime time. It was a hot day on a Saturday, and there are thousands upon thousands of people wearing clothing that a Muslim shouldn't be around, right? So that's part of Iman. But going to the grocery store, going to work, that's not what I'm talking about. Even though there might be some temptations, it's not going to be overpowering to the average individual, right? But this notion of isolating oneself completely from society, that's actually something the Quran rejects. So the concept of monasticism, like what maybe some Jews or Christians or even some Muslims practice, like monks and being away from society and they just do their own thing, that's not part of Islam. Now, if a person wants to isolate themselves occasionally for a short period of time, even if it's like a week, just to kind of recenter themselves, get back on, get back in their mind, pray a little bit, etc., that's fine. But For somebody to completely isolate themselves from society, that's not the way of the prophets.
Yeah, because I was thinking about like the Prophet Muhammad Allah sallallahu alaihi salam, how he would go to a cave and then his wife would
Yeah, that was
visit
before
him.
Islam, though. That was before he became a prophet.
And yeah, and I also thought about Moses. Like I don't know if it's in the Quran that he would go to the mountain and like by himself, and that's how he
He was
received-
commanded to that by God to go and meet God to receive revelation,
Mm.
right? But that wasn't a normal practice of his.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Revert for 11 days, and my question is, my mother moved into my house before I found Islam, and in respect of the Catholic upbringing, allowed her to put anything she wanted around the house, right? Just to allowed her to feel at home, right? Because I didn't want to say like, no, you can't do this. So my Catholic mother has wood crosses in my room, one on my window, one above my door, and a picture of Jesus Christ. Is it okay for me to bring them down and give them back to her in respect, or how do I go about that with respecting her religion as well?
Yeah, so you need to take those down because those are blasphemous symbols to us, right? So you find your way of politely letting your mother know that, does she know you're a Muslim?
Yeah, I had that
So
conversation.
let her know, and let her know why, right?
Of course.
Now, if she wants to, does she have her own room?
Yes.
So if she wants to hang it up in her room, she has the right to do that. So if she puts things up in her room, that's fine. But the rest of the home, since it's your home, you should politely, request from your mother not to put any symbols that are antithetical to our beliefs anywhere aside from her room.
Of course. And then second question is, my mother always gifted her three sons a Catholic necklace. Mine is a gold, but it's yellow, white, and rose gold. It does have a cross on it. It would be that, based on your last answer, the same way. Should I just give it back to her? I know one thing it's gold and one thing has a cross.
Yeah, I give it back to her. If she insists that you keep it and she's okay with you selling it, make getting money off of it, maybe that's fine. You can give it as charity, but just give it back to her.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shaykh Tarik, I have 4 nieces and nephews, ages 8 to 12. They're very smart. They're very astute. My nephew's supposed to be in 6th grade. He's going to 12th. My niece is supposed to be in 5th. She's going to 9th. They're very smart kids, and they know that I'm Muslim, but they don't know anything about Islam. And they're at the age now where a lot of outside influences are pulling at them. How do I introduce them to Islam? And my mom's okay with it. Seeing that they don't know anything about Islam.
Well, what I would recommend first is for you to sit and observe them.
They're in Texas.
I'm sorry?
They're in Texas.
I see. So let's say they're visiting you or you're visiting them.
Yeah.
Observe for a little bit. Understand how they think. Understand what's exciting and interesting to them. And then try and find something in Islam that would talk to that. So let's say, for example, they're very interested in superheroes. Right? Superhero this, Marvel, DC, whatever. That's what they really talk about. They have action figures, and it really connects with them. Try and find heroes from our tradition, whether the prophets or the prophet or the companions, and try and introduce Islam through them. See what I mean? Maybe one of them is very studious. They love history.
Yeah. Techie kids.
Whatever, they like history, or he or she likes history. They're always talking about, they have a book about history. Introduce Islam to them through that. Well, what do you know about the history of Islam and stuff like that? So you sit and observe a little bit and try and figure out, what really excites these individuals, what connects with them, and then try and find from Islam that which you can connect with them through.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I had a little detailed question about like the incomes of husband and wife. I had a friend ask me because she works and then her husband works, and I know that someone said that sometimes when the wife puts in the income, it's considered charity. Can you kind of give me some type of source that shows that that's true?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. So basically, like my friend, she works and her husband works, and she was wondering if, like, since they both put the income into the home, her income, because for the man is fard, right? Like it's mandatory on him to provide for the family. So she was asking me if it's what does it say in the Quran or like a hadith that says that her income is considered charity into the family since it's not her fard.
Well, technically, it's both. Both of them, what they spend on their family is considered charity. Whether it's an obligation or not is aside the point. So the Prophet ﷺ says, a man who puts food in his wife's mouth, that's an act of charity. Just like when even if she's not spending from her own money, maybe she's cleaning, cooking, whatever she's doing, she's doing it for the family, that is an act of charity. So just because something's an obligation on a person does not disqualify it from being a charity in of itself. Was the question beyond this, or is it just this?
No, because like I know that for a man, like it's a duty to provide for the female.
Mm-hmm.
So when the female puts in some type of something considered for her.
If a lady assists her husband in his financial responsibilities, of course that's an act of charity for her. It's an act of ta'awun, an act of assistance, which is very praiseworthy in Islam. Right? So it will really go back to who's more sincere in what they do. Right? So that's the way I would see it. You're welcome, of course.
All right. Sheikh, I'm take some questions here online if it's okay. First question here is, Sheikh, I work hard labor out here in Mexico during the month of Ramadan. Is it okay if I feed someone in need on a certain day instead of fasting?
No. Hard work, hot temperatures, physical labor is not an excuse for breaking fast. There are people who are in construction and work long hours under the sun, and they've been able to fast. So we're going to say you have to fast. And it's not an excuse to not fast and feed somebody else. But I will say that if you're working a lot hard labor and you're about to pass out, like or you do pass out, or you become dehydrated, or a medical emergency happens, at that point you can break your fast and then make it up another day. Right? Let me be very clear here. Working hard, the nature of a person's work is not an excuse to break one's fast. However, if they are doing very laborious work and a medical emergency comes up for them, at that point, they need to attend to their immediate urgent needs. They could break their fast there, and then they would make the day up. They don't pay, right? They don't give meat, they don't pay. Rather, they have to make it up another day.
Perfect. Next question, Sheikh, is Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible for married couples to celebrate Valentine's Day or groups of girls to do a Galentine's Day? I'm assuming a Gal's Day. Thanks.
Well, what's Valentine's Day?
Girls' Day, right? Like
girls with each others. These ladies have given up so much on men. They've even changed Valentine's Day to being just for girls. It's fine, right? It's fine, not a problem. Either or, right? If the ladies want to get together and just hang out on a certain day, whatever, that's fine with me. I see Valentine's Day, although quite meaningless, it's a very cultural thing. As far as I'm aware, there's no religious symbolism, no religious background for the Valentine's Day. So husband and wife, I definitely encourage them to do something, because in our day and age, we are in desperate need of constantly refreshing the relationship. And girls get together, have fun.
Okay. Sheikh, next question here. I have a question. I recently started getting curious about becoming Muslim, but with my work, I will have hard time to do prayers and follow some of the rules. So do you think I'm better off waiting till I can give 100% of myself?
No, you're better off taking the first step. Become a Muslim. If you're convinced, if you believe that there's only one God worthy of worship and that Muhammad is the last and final messenger, and you believe that Jesus is a prophet of God, become a Muslim. And then we'll worry about the other parts after. So take the first step, and then inshallah we'll help you take the next steps. But you're better off taking that first step than staying at point zero until everything works out. That's not the way it works, you know. You will never enter a scenario where everything is perfectly arranged. And you never know, maybe by taking the first step, God himself will pave the road for you. But you'll never know unless you take that first step.
Perfect. So at SoCal_slots, please reach out to us if you're local or even if you're nationwide. We'll be more than happy to help you. I put the information in the comment section there, inshallah. All right. Let's pass the mic around. Anybody from a new Muslim family, inshallah? All right. Eric? You have a question?
Hi, question. So I have a cousin. He's gonna get baptized. They're inviting me. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got a cousin that is getting is gonna get baptized in a Catholic church. It's family. They're inviting me. What do I do? Do I go? Do I not?
No, I'd recommend not going,
Okay.
right? You know your family, you know maybe some of the problems that might come up. I don't know how important it is to the family. Like, if you don't go, what's going to be the consequences? If the consequences are minor, none, then you shouldn't go. But if it's going to create like World War III in your family, then maybe you can just go to avoid that. But you're going understanding that I disbelieve in this process.
And Sheikh, also with that, if there's, I know we've talked about it before, if there's like in a church or in a gathering like that, if there's religious services versus something that's not religious. So if someone goes, but when the religious services kick off, they just kind of step away just to kind of show. And there, is that something you would encourage in this situation, or? Yeah, funeral, because we did have a
Right.
question earlier on that as well.
So it's known that a Muslim is allowed to enter a church or a synagogue. They're allowed to enter a temple where, you know, acts of disbelief occur. And we also know that a Muslim is never allowed to participate in religious rituals that are not Islam. So these are like the two borders or the barriers, if you want. Within that, you know, there's nothing inherently forbidden about going and observing what non-Muslims do, right? If a Muslim goes to Sunday Mass to observe what's going on, just because they're interested in hearing how Christians conduct themselves, not like curiosity in terms of, you know, maybe they're right, maybe I believe in this stuff. No, but you're going just to see what's going on. I can't say that that's prohibited. At the same time, if there needs to be a purpose behind the actual going, right? So, okay, if you're not gonna gain anything by observing their religious worship, religious rituals, then why go in the first place? It's just a waste of time, right? So that's why I'm saying if going to the baptism is not going to have any consequences on you, then don't go. There's no benefit in going. I'm sure you know what a church is, and I'm sure you know what Christians do or Catholics do in a church. So what's the point of going, right? But if it's going to create major problems for you, right? Problems that will last for years. I mean, some families are like that. Oh, that person didn't go to my baptism. Now I have to wage war against that person, make their life miserable because they didn't go, right? So since observing what non-Muslims do isn't inherently forbidden so long as they're not participating in it, then going to avoid that major problem, I think, is justified. Now, for funerals is part religious, part non-religious, part customary. So if a family member, a friend, a colleague, a coworker passes away and they're not Muslim, you are allowed to attend their funeral services, even if the funeral services are occurring in a church or a synagogue or a temple, so long as you don't participate in the rituals. You're there as a bystander, as an observer, you pay your respects. You're welcome to go to the graveyard and to watch the burial itself, but do not participate in any acts of worship. That is a clear red line right there.
Thank you so much, Sheikh. We really appreciate it.
You're
We'll focus on our brothers here, new to Islam. We're on the journey. Just want to get to Jose.
Salam Sheikh. Thank you for your answers so far. I have a couple questions. I'm still new and on the journey, and I've been practicing what I can and studying what I can and asking questions when I can.
Sure.
I have a few. So one that might be easy for you is, I know like dogs can break wudu, and it's like, I don't know if it's forbidden or if it's just recommended for them not to be in the house. But I have a dog that I raised since it was a pup, and I'm looking to be fully Muslim. And having my dog is like, he can't live outside because I live at the 4th floor of an apartment. I would feel heartbroken, and so would the dog giving him away. So what can I do to still like respect the religion and also care for the animal that I've raised?
Yeah, so having a dog cannot break your wudu. They cannot break your ablution, right? So if a dog licks one's hand, we do consider that saliva to be impure. It needs to be washed off, but it doesn't break ablution, right? Furthermore, having a dog in one's home does not invalidate their prayer. That's another point that people tend to, even Muslims tend to misunderstand. But what you should do is have a room where the dog does not enter, where you could do your prayer there in that regard. Now, I would just recommend you just put the dog issue aside for now, because having a dog does not invalidate you being a Muslim. It doesn't restrict you from being a Muslim. And we would all prefer you just be a Muslim. And then even if that means you have to keep your dog, you want to keep your dog, fine. Keep your dog. Just be part of the family.
Cool. Thank you. Another question that's actually going to be hard for me to ask. My mom is no longer here, and she was raised Catholic, and the cultural values attached to that kind of carried over throughout my life because I didn't know of Islam growing up. She's not here, so she can't work her way to Jannah, let's say. And I want to know what I could do for her now that she's gone. And friends of mine who over the years have passed, people I've been to funerals, I've lost family members, friends to many different reasons. And I want to be able to be a good Muslim and do something for them along my journey through life, not since I am still here.
Yeah, so in our religion, a person is not held accountable for their actions until a messenger has come to them. The message has reached them. So any person who dies as a non-Muslim, not having heard of Islam, or what they have been told about Islam is lies to make it look bad, this person won't be held accountable until they are sent the message, meaning something occurs in the afterlife that tests them to see whether they would believe or not. So, I know many people have passed away on different faiths, not really knowing what Islam is or was. So for those individuals, and only God knows whether they know the message or not, right? So that's for God to decide, not for us to decide. So that's one thing. In that regard, what you can do is you can ask God, saying, "Oh God, if they had not received the message, then when you give them the message, help them accept it." Does that make sense?
And if they're deceased?
What I'm saying is those who did not know about Islam in their life and they passed away not knowing about Islam, in the afterlife, they are tested. God puts them through a certain exam to see whether they'll believe or not. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, if that's the case. So that's one. Number two, your parents or your mother would be very proud to know, and it will ease her heart, and she will be happy to know that her son chose the right path. And the way you can honor her is by living through those values, which a lot of values overlap between Christianity or Catholicism and Islam. You know, her knowing that my child is living as a decent individual with good manners, honorable, trustworthy, truthful, you know, that's how you continue to honor her and to spread the message, right? So she would see that as honorable for her son.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Just looking at the time, brothers and sisters, have about maybe a good 10, 15 minutes, then we have some announcements. So, okay. Someone who hasn't asked a question yet, let's give a first time, inshallah. Sister Sophia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Come, sir.
So I just recently converted, and my family is also Catholic. The way that I was raised and the way that my family is, they're not very religious themselves in the sense that like they go to church every Sunday or like they're praying all the time or anything like that. The way that we were raised is like just be a good person and do good deeds, and as long as you're acting with a kind heart, that's all that matters. I don't really know how to go about them like seeing kind of like the commitment and the determination and like the value of praying 5 times a day, covering up, and like all the other commitments that kind of go into the religion, which personally, just seeing the religion myself, I was able to kind of see the value. I'm not sure how to approach that really with my parents so that they can see kind of like that value, because I feel like they just think like it's too much, like going like Ramadan, like we have our Ash Wednesday where we kind of like give up something for 40 days as well. So to them, like even Ramadan and not eating the whole day, it's too much. So they're seeing like all of that as too much. Whereas to me, it's like commitment and determination, but I don't really know how to explain that to them so that they can see that value.
Mm-hmm.
How would you kind of go about that?
Yeah, so those who see religion as primarily or exclusively be a good person, right? There are people within even the Muslim community who that's how they see it. The challenge becomes in that the values that are commonly promoted in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are very similar. So the challenge becomes, well, how is Islam really any different than Christianity and Judaism? It all seems the same. So it's actually a really big challenge. Now, how do you convince them that no, it's not just being a good person, it's also being good with God? So that's how you begin to challenge their framework. Just because a person is a good person to fellow human beings does not mean they're a good person to God, right? An atheist could be a wonderful human being, but as soon as you start bringing up God, a whole different side, their dark side comes out, right? So if your family is the type where they care about religion, they think it's important, but they only see religion as human interaction, then this is how you bring it up. This is how you challenge it. So what about a person's relationship with God? If God tells me to do this, or if God tells you to do that, do X, Y, and Z, would you do it? So don't focus on the what, but rather focus on God himself. Try and take it back to God. Well, what if God tells you to do this? What if Jesus was here and says God commands you to do this? That's one thing. The other is I would recommend you begin to educate yourself about the acts of worship like hijab, like prayer, like fasting, from a historical sense. Look at Christianity. What does Christianity really say about fasting? Go in the history. And what you'll find is that fasting was more similar back then to Islam today than what Christians practice today. When you look at the hijab, I mean, Christians know that Mary used to wear a scarf, right? You go to the very liberal art museums and they'll have a statue of Mary wearing hijab exactly the way you all are wearing it. So you can go back in history and say, well, what does Christianity actually preach in this regard? How did Jesus actually pray? You could try that and see where it goes.
I kind of did.
You did these?
Yeah.
Well,
And so I guess it's just because, like you were saying, they kind of see it kind of like all the same, and they're like, you just have to be a good person, and to them, the relationship with God is like, just have your relationship with God, and like, there's only one God. Believe in that. As long as you're believing that and you're acting with a pure heart, why do you have to do so much more? And like to me, like I try to explain to them that like I just want to have like a closer relationship to God, because that's kind of how I see like everything, you know, being committed and like having that determination. But I think probably they just have to get more exposed to it, because they're just kind of like, it's still in the, well, there's just one God, we believe in the same thing. Why do you have to do so many extra things?
Great.
They're seeing it as extra, I guess.
Sure. Let them see it as extra. But focus on the monotheism aspect. Okay, do you really believe there's only one God? Do you believe that Jesus is God? Focus on that. If they end up accepting that none is worthy worship except God, like testimony of Islamic faith, that's what they accept, and they don't want to do anything else, great, that's a win for us. And try and pay attention to what frustrates them. Like what do they react a lot to? Those are the things that you can work on, because they're reacting to it. You see what I mean?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That helps.
Sure.
Sorry, it's just gonna go back to the deceased. Like, even if your parents are not Muslim and they passed away, can you still visit them at a Christian grave? Like, or you just rather pray for them at home?
I mean, you're welcome to visit their grave. The Prophet, peace be upon him, when he was coming back from a travel, he passed by the area where his mother was buried, and he asked God permission to visit her and to ask for forgiveness for her. So God allowed him to visit her, but didn't allow him to ask for her forgiveness. Right? So we want to be careful in this regard. And you know, I don't know how it feels, because I'm born in a Muslim family. All my family is Muslim. So, you know, I'm not pretending to know the feeling. So, but what I will say is the companions, the prophets were in the same boat. Abraham's father passed away a non-Muslim. We don't know about his mother. Pretty much all the prophets had family members who passed away as disbelievers. The companions, the same thing. So seek inspiration in them. And going back to what I was mentioning earlier, just to be clear, the invocation is very conditional. That if they had not received the message, right? If they had not received the message. So visiting their graves, I think is fine, so long as we don't ask for forgiveness for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's pass over. I see Adam, Brother Fawad, and come to Miguel, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Shaykh.
Assalamu alaikum.
So today I had to sit during prayer because anyway, I'm not getting into that, but I had to sit during the Jumu'ah prayer. I realized some people, when they're sitting, they're not, when they stand up, it's not shoulder to shoulder with the people that are just standing. So I heard a different sheikh say that you have to put your chair back, so when you're standing, you're shoulder to shoulder with the other people. I was wondering which one's right, because I went with the other sheikh. I put my chair back, and I made sure also like to be respectful with the people behind me. So I just made sure the person behind me was also on a chair. So what's the deal with that?
Yeah, the solution to that is getting chairs that aren't so bulky. Well, seriously, like there are chairs that are quite small but do the job. That's the solution. Or else you're always getting these people who put their chairs at the end of the row, and then it completely breaks the row behind it. So we don't want that, right? Now, if you're in a section where it's all chairs, to me, it doesn't matter if you're forward or back, right? I don't. It doesn't really matter to me. But let's just say that's not the case. Then the rule is when you are sitting down, you're shoulder to shoulder, which would mean the back legs are on the line, not the front ones. Thus, when you are sitting, you're shoulder to shoulder.
Oh, but to clarify, when I'm able to stand, so I stood, but I couldn't prostrate or.
And I understand.
So when
I
I'm sitting
understand.
down in the chair, I should be shoulder to shoulder with the
Yes.
people.
This way, you still maintain shoulder to shoulder, although it's not for the entirety of prayer, and you don't break the row behind you, right? But again, the ideal solution is to have those chairs that aren't so bulky, where it's kind of like just the sitting spot, and then your legs are wide enough to be parallel to that chair itself. This way, when you're standing and sitting, you're shoulder to shoulder.
Got it. Jazakallah khairan.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I have a question
Assalam.
because we work in a school environment and we have students. And this is also my personal question too. What is your perspective on music and Islam? Because in my years, I have found music individually to be therapeutic. I listen to it in the gym. It's very motivating. I know there are certain lyrics and songs you should stay away from, but in general, like classical and instrumental, and even others that have good, clean lyrics. What is your view? I know it's been a long debated topic, but I'd like to hear your perspective. Thank you.
The vast majority of scholars agree that, in fact, almost all scholars agree that musical instruments is impermissible to be played and to be heard, right? Whether it's in the Islamic context or the non-Islamic context. Singing is different, right? Now, when it comes to music, there's a very interesting book titled The Music Made Me Do It, written by a Muslim who studies the neuroscience behind music, right? Music is the wavelengths of the sounds inspire emotions, as you were alluding to. Like you get motivated. It's therapeutic. Now, the Quran does the same thing. When you listen to the Quran, it inspires emotions. So you might think, well, what's the difference? And the answer is, well, the difference is in what emotions it inspires. And I always remember when I'm asked this question, one of these known brothers who does da'wah on the streets, what's his man, Way of Life IQ or something like that, his channel. What is it, do you know? Brothers, he does good work, right? So one time he was in the hood and he was giving da'wah over there. And he comes by these two young gentlemen and he says, can you listen to this? Just listen to this and tell me your opinion. It's the Quran. And the brothers listen, and they listen for a few minutes, and then they say, what do you think? It's like, one of the guys said, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. It's not like our music that makes me want to punch somebody, right? So like he said, this makes me want to think. It makes me want to reflect. It makes me want to contemplate. Music gets you sad, gets you angry, it gets you, hyped up. Those aren't the emotions we want. We want the emotions that are more conducive to the human well-being, right? And I'm not saying every single song is going to have a direct impact on one's well-being, but in general, it does. Right? So my opinion about music is that it should be avoided. Like I'm actually very passionate about getting people away from music. And some of the companions even said that music is the seed of hypocrisy in the hearts. And other scholars have said that music, the words of the shaitan, music, and the words of Allah will never mix in a person's heart. It's one or the other. So you won't find a hafiz, a memorizer of the Quran, who will be able to retain that memorization while simultaneously listening to a lot of music. It's just not going to happen. It's one or the other. All right. So I personally believe music is very spiritually unhealthy, and it does have harm on a person's well-being overall. Now, that's at the individual level. Music is extremely widespread, and it would be very difficult to strictly enforce this upon the masses of people. In fact, on your family itself. So if you have kids, they're bound to listen to music, right? Sooner or later. How do you navigate that? How do you deal with that? How much do you let slide? How much, that's a different conversation, right? Furthermore, if I'm entering into the Meridian Cube, right, and there's some nasheed, Islamic music on, like Mahir Zain, but there's some musical instruments, I'm not going to go out of my way and say, stop, 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 stop. I'm not going to do that, right? There is an amount you have to just let slide, just because the realities of our times. But at the individual level, Allah has given you something better than the music. And that is the Quran. And if you want some of that, the songs, then there's plenty of Islamic, singing and Islamic nasheed that will do, that aspect of motivation, hyping you up and getting you kind of energized. You're welcome.
All right, Shaykh Tarik Ata, please give it up for our dear Shaykh Tarik. Thank you so much, Shaykh Tarik. We really appreciate it. Always a privilege having you with us. Again, just a friendly reminder, we'll have Shaykh Tarik for our Sunday class as well, or Islam 101 class. You'll be joining us as well. Thank you all again here for your questions. Of course, as I try to stress week in and week out, sessions like this are very important because we have questions, lots of questions, technical questions, deep questions, and who better than to ask our community leaders, our sheikhs, our imams. So thank you all very much. Of course, if we're not able to get to your questions, if you want to message me offline, maybe I can get over to Shaykh Tarik, or of course, Sunday we have class too, so maybe we can visit that on Sunday as well, inshallah, God willing. Number two is just some announcements. Again, as I mentioned a few times, once class is over for both classes, Fridays and Sundays, typically there's just a handful of people that are left behind, and they're doing a lot of work, and sometimes it's like an hour plus of just kind of like cleaning up and so forth. So again, I'm gonna try to make this announcement weekly until we kind of get it where we have a good group going, if it's okay. So if I can encourage you all to hang out with us afterwards just for a little bit, especially in the kitchen. We need help in the kitchen. So if anybody, 2, 3, 4 volunteers, I think we can knock it out about 10 or 15 minutes. So please keep that in mind. Once class is over, if you can join us, if prayer starts, and after prayer, if we can make our way back and help out in the kitchen, I would really appreciate it. Please just keep that in mind. Number two, we try to leave a little donation box here, so it helps us to offset the expenses. So if you're in a position where you can donate a little bit, or whether it's cash or you can scan the QR code, it would really help us out within the New Muslim and the outreach to the Dawah department. We have some snacks left. I can tell the hot dogs are gone, mashallah. Tell you guys like they're very good. And again, sorry, I should have started with this. Please give it up for our volunteer team. This is strictly done by our volunteer team. I mean, the hot dogs, the sandwiches, the condiments. We have jalapenos here? Mashallah, very good. We have jalapenos there. I just noticed it right now. I mean, look, it's really nice. I mean, it's like a family, right? So we get together as a family. We try to have the food warm. And so we thank Allah for this. And then by extension, this is really done by our volunteer team. The tables, I mean, before class, you have the brothers and sisters here wiping down the tables so the tables are clean. All that good stuff, the live streaming. So please, again, if you can extend and offer some help, 20, 30 minutes here and there to help us out, we would really appreciate it. But on your way out, please make sure to take some food. I think the tea is finished, but there's some coffee left over, so please help yourself with that as well. I want to acknowledge some people that are joining us here for the first time. We're blessed almost weekly. We're having people join, and today is no exception. I want to first give it up for brother Jose. Jose, if you can just raise your hand. This is Jose's first time in class. He's on the journey to learn more about Islam. And when I say that, it's really emotional to me because I've said that many times, and I look at you guys, and you guys, most of you are at that point as well, and then you take that step. So we ask Allah, we beg Allah, we pray to Allah for Allah to open up our brother Jose's heart. He's very close, but of course he's researching and studying. And so when you're ready, Jose, let us know. May Allah reward you and bless you. Welcome. Number two, I'm very happy, as you know, our dear sister Delaney, who accepted Islam a few weeks ago, she brought her daughter here today. So, Sister Delaney, please remind me your daughter's name again. Noeli. Noeli, please give it up for little Sheikh Noeli. Welcome, Noeli. Good to have you with us. Number three, I also want to acknowledge our dear Sister Sophia. Sister Sophia embraced Islam about a week and a half ago, is it? But just about a week and a half ago. So please welcome our dear Sister Sophia about a week and a half in. And then today we had the honor, after we had, as you know, at IIC on Fridays, we have 2 shifts for the Friday sermon because we just don't have the parking. So after the first shift was over, a group of like 4 or 5 brothers were walking as we were standing by the outreach table, one of the brothers, he was coming for about, I think, 3 to 4 weeks in a row for the Friday sermon. He's very interested. And so the question went out, like, what's holding you back? Are you ready? Any questions? He's like, no, man, I'm ready. And so right there in the lobby outside, and you've heard me say this number of times, as he came out of the sermon, he was in the lobby. We were sitting in or standing in the lobby. He was ready. He said, I walked in and my heart was warm. My heart felt good. I'm paraphrasing, but he said it so eloquently and he articulated it so well. He basically said, I felt like this was it. Today was the day, and so he was ready. And so he went forward and he took his shahada. So I just want to welcome our dear brother Tien. Brother Tien, I don't know if he's joining us here online, but Tien is just a few hours old. He embraced Islam today. Again, we're very honored. Shaykh Tarik, you see the messages. You're in the trenches with us, man. I really appreciate your support. I appreciate all of our mashayikh, our scholars, imams, community leaders that's supporting our program. Each and every one of you of extending the invitation to other people that might be new to Islam on our social media. We're getting messages. People from different states are reaching out to us to start a program like this. People that used to be part of this program. We are blessed at IFC. We are absolutely blessed. I just ask you all to stick together as a family. I ask you all to help one another out. If you're part of other communities, help them out. If you're part of the mosque here and you see someone that might walk in for the first time, I'll use Sophia's story if it's okay. Sister Sophia walked in. This was like 2-3 weeks ago, and she just walked in. She's like, and like it was at a time where it was kind of quiet at the mosque between prayers. And so I think it was just a couple, right? A husband and wife. They were just trying to help you, and you're just trying to like, get some assistance. And then we came down, and they're very kind. They were just trying to do their best, like trying to guide Sophia in the right direction. I just happened to walk in, and then they're like, "Okay, just talk to this guy." I was like, "Wait, what happened?" And then, look, 2 weeks later, by Allah's mercy, Sophia accepted Islam. So you never know. You see someone that walks into the mosque, and you're part of that mosque. You see someone that might be new. Extend a hand of friendship to them. Welcome them. You never know how that gesture that you took 20 seconds, that gesture that you had for that person, you don't know how long and how far that goes, right? So please make sure to extend that and keep the family in your prayers, your du'as here. It's growing, and we're trying to keep up as well as best as you can. So may Allah reward you all and bless you all. Of course, 7:30 will be our prayer, and then we'll have a special Friday night talk tonight with our brother Omar Mendoza and Sheikh Mohammed Al-Zahid. Because of everything that's happening online, some people are going to anxiety and stress and depression, so they're going to have a session on that and how to cope with that with, I think, Dr. Omar tonight, Mendoza. So we'll be inside the multi-purpose room. We just need the chairs. We need to put the tables away. So before we do that, I just would ask, on both sides, there's a rack there, and we'll pull in the other rack. We need to put the tables on the racks, and the chairs, we want to make sure they don't overflow, right? Sister Maimuna? All right, perfect. So when you put the chairs, we just want to make sure that they're leveled off. But we're not putting the chairs. I'm sorry. We're keeping the chairs. So my fault. I was using a new word that we're working on here, mashallah. But yeah, tables that we can put away. We'll keep the chairs just in straight lines, and then we'll see everybody inside at 7:30. Again, please don't forget, we do need help in the kitchen. So if I can ask 2 or 3 brothers or sisters to help us out, I really appreciate it.